very impressed. As the librarian said, this is maybe the most beautiful room in the country. So every guest we take in here is impressed with this room. It's, as you know, the only original part of the Parliament building after the fire, and it's just a beautiful place.
And the whole building structure really is, in some ways, it's one of the best kept secrets. The Parliament building.
Yeah, and it's very different than what they're used to in the United States. They have a more Roman style. This is a more Gothic style. I think he found that quite intriguing.
Tell me about how the relationship has started, because I think most people, the analysts, the former diplomats, agree that the issues are one thing, but you can't really get anywhere unless there is some form of personal relationship. This was your first chance with him. You had a half an hour alone, literally alone, nobody else in the room. What was that like?
It was a great chance to talk. I always find in these meetings that what we call the tete-a-tete, the one-on-one, is the best time. You're sitting down as a leader with another leader, you know, a guy who's, the buck stops with him. We're in the middle of an economic crisis. We have a tremendous security concerns the public doesn't fully understand. And of course, we're both, in our cases, middle-aged guys from middle-class backgrounds with young families. And there's a kind of conversation you can have about issues in that context that you can only have with another leader. And, you know, perspectives and concerns that only each other can really understand. So it was a great conversation. He's an easy guy to like and an easy guy to get to know.
Does it, you know, get personal? Like, do you talk about family?
Absolutely. We those are always the best relationships I find, where you get to know each other and what makes the other guy tick. It's not just about what are your policies, but why you think the way you do. What are your hopes and aspirations for your own family and ultimately for your country?
What surprised you about him? That, you know, what did you see that you didn't already know about him?
The thing that struck me the most about him was how genuinely relaxed he is. And it's not to say that he doesn't seem to have a grasp of the tremendous challenges that are in front of him. In fact, I mean, when I think of the challenges in front of me, and when I look at the ones in front of him, they're just overwhelming. But he seems to have a good perspective on it all. He seems to be, you know, able to look at it, able to understand the complexity and the difficulties of these challenges, but it doesn't seem to in any way be overwhelming him or stressing him. And, you know, that's something that's impressive at this point, but obviously we both have a long way to go through this economic time.
How do you take it to the next step? I mean, how does this relationship move on from this day one?
Well, I think there are two things, Peter. First of all, you know, this is the tip of an iceberg. The Prime Minister and President meeting is the culmination of a whole lot of preparations by a whole lot of different people, from ministers to officials on down to tour directors. There's a lot of follow-up on that. We settled on some pretty broad initiatives here on, you know, obviously we're doing stuff on automobiles. We talked about joint infrastructure border projects, and obviously this dialogue on energy. There's a lot of work to be done by officials to follow up on that and really bring some, you know, put some meat on the bones of all of this. The other, of course, is to, you know, to continue to be in contact, compare notes. But I think the important thing that we began here, and I can't underestimate, I can't overstate how important this is we started focus on big picture stuff. You know, too often as Canadians, we complain that we're ignored by the United States, but too often as Canadians, we focus on our grievances or our complaints with the United States. The United States has a lot of people with grievances and complaints. We have a privileged relationship with the U.S., and we are in a position to think big picture and provide some value added to the relationship so that it's worth it for the Americans to spend time with us. And, you know, I'm hoping that as we approach these big summits, G20, NATO, some of the Americas, that President Obama and I will have more time to compare notes and figure out how we can be helpful to each other.
You've talked to him on the phone before. When you talk to him on the phone, the next time, is it different? I mean,
absolutely. Like any relationship. You can have a relationship over the telephone or a relationship through the internet on email, but I don't think you get a three-dimensional relationship till you actually meet someone in person, and that then makes the other kinds of communication so much easier and deeper.
Does it become Stephen-Barack relationship? I mean, did you ever call him by his first name on this?
Yeah, absolutely. We decided in our second conversation we'd go with first names, and and I think that's all just part of the relationship building process.
You used an opportunity in the statements to make a pitch that seemed to was going beyond the president,
right,
but to the people of the United States, about how you saw the border issue, and specifically on the security side.
Yeah.
That we worry as much about security as you do.
Mm-hmm.
After a decade like we've seen, does it surprise you as Prime Minister of Canada that for many Americans they still think the opposite on that?
I'm not sure what American public opinion is. I know that certainly, say 5-6 years ago, American public opinion was very bad on this, and some of that had been colored by the falling out of the relationship over Iraq. It doesn't matter who was right or wrong. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong in a Canadian-American dispute. We lose. So we're obviously, since then, we've been engaged in Afghanistan. We've been bringing our relationship, back to a better place. And I just thought it was a great time to remind Americans of that. It isn't just that we have the same concerns as they do, but a threat in New York City is going to affect Toronto. Let's not kid ourselves. We're in no different a boat than they are. There are no two countries, not just with values that are as close as ours, but no two countries that share interests and threats the way we do. And sure, I was making a pitch to the U.S., and I do think there's been improvement in Canada's image in the last few years in the United States, but we'll keep working on that.
Thanks for your time on this. Thank you. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah.